First, I want to talk about some of what I learned from the conference, and I'm going to talk a bit about pro-tactile signing. After the conference a few weeks back, I became aware of how important it was for deafblind interpreters to know how to modify their signing space, the distance between the consumer and interpreter, adjusting pacing and positioning. At the conference, I experienced a range of needs as far as signing space. One consumer had low vision and used tracking to communicate. She required a smaller signing space, and I had to adjust some of the signs, like the sign for understand, because in its normal location, it was out of her visual window. I did not have to slow down my signing pace with this consumer. However, I also worked with a consumer who used tactile communication. I was not sure if I should slow down. I felt as if I was being unclear in some moments as I tried to copy sign the presenter. Each consumer will have their own needs, and as interpreters, especially for deafblind consumers, it is important to adjust your signing style for the consumer. I also learned that clothing options when working with a deafblind consumer can be even more restricted than interpreting for deaf consumers. If we are working with a deafblind consumer, the interpreter should know the importance of appropriate clothing and other essential factors in accommodating people who have various types of restricted vision. We are usually encouraged to wear darker clothes, but some colors I learned, like purple, can be just as hard for low vision consumers to have as a background for signing as other lighter colors. Next, I want to discuss how pro-tactile signing came to be. There are 3 roles a deafblind interpreter will take on while interpreting for a deafblind consumer. The first 2 are pretty obvious: the support of accessibility to communication, whichever type of communication style is best for them, and to help guide or navigate through an environment. The less commonly known role for a deafblind interpreter is to support.
I'm so sorry. Could you go back to the sensible one?
There are 3 roles a deafblind interpreter will take on while with a deafblind consumer. The first 2 are more obvious: to support accessibility to communication, and the second is to help guide through an environment. The less commonly known role for a deafblind interpreter is to support accessibility to environmental information. The third role is what helps the consumer truly be an active participant by making them aware and able to react to information in a room that is not strictly verbalized. A qualified deafblind interpreter will provide visual and environmental information in addition to spoken or signed content. This is where pro-tactile interpreting comes in.
This is where tactile interpreting
comes in. Pro-tactile interpreting was developed by Jelica Nicusio and
Could you spell that name?
Jelica Nuccio and AJ Granda, Granda.
Is that all one person?
Those are 2 people.
Okay.
So Jelica Nicusio and AJ Granada. I can respell them.
Okay.
Do you want me to just keep going? Or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just keep
Okay.
going.
Please. Quickly.
I told you it's technical. I wrote you a paper.
That's fine.
2 deafblind community leaders from Seattle, Washington. As Nicusio and Granada note in their first blog about pro-tactile, it means first and foremost that deafblind people value touch for purposes of communication in the same way that hearing people value sound and voices, and deaf people value vision. Touch is our way of being present with one another. Pro-tactile involves a system of feedback cues called back-channeling that provides the communicators with information about each other, their responses to what is being communicated, and their environment. This could be as simple as a yes, a way to show to whoever you are talking to that you are listening and that you understand, or to interject your own idea or ask about a missed point in the conversation. It helps create a more natural conversation style with overlapping talk, interruptions, and general responses. It can also be a highly effective way to provide feedback to a deafblind presenter about the audience's responses and reactions. We all kind of experienced this at the conference. When someone had a question, the presenter was made aware, and the interpreter was able to address the question while it was relevant to what he just said. If the deafblind presenter had waited until the end to the end of the presentation and then asked for questions, I feel like a lot of information would have been missed and a lot of questions would never have been asked. I read in one blog that in some Scandinavian countries like Norway or Finland, a different kind of pro-tactile communication is widely used for deafblind individuals. It's called haptic communication, HAPTIC, and it works similarly to pro-tactile interpreting. The blogger explains that interpreters might draw a question mark or a happy face to help the consumer be more aware of social cues, but that is still limited in the amount of environmental information that it is shared. She said that it is my personal opinion that pro-tactile provides much more background information and actions, where haptic communication is more about social cues, but she feels that both can benefit from one another.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can keep that shit. That won't be on the town. Maybe it will though.
So,
Good for you, okay, that was okay.
Hey, Nick.
That
That was good. Well, and